trenches, that special place where the living were routinely killed and the dead occasionally dug up to make room for more bodies. It was cozy, dodging shell holes and the occasional angry dog. Let the tale of the trench explorers serve as a reminder of the quiet heroism that often goes unsung in the grand theater of war. As the echoes of war fade into the distance and the scent of damp earth gives way to the sweet fragrance of dreams, it is time for you, the intrepid traveler of time, to close your eyes and surrender to the gentle pull of sleep. May your dreams be filled with peaceful landscapes, with the soft murmur of breezes through the trees and the tranquil lull of waves lapping at the shore. Forget the rumble of artillery and the stench of decay, for now you are safe, cradled by the arms of Morpheus, the god of dreams. Allow your breathing to slow, your heart to soften, and your muscles to relax. Let the worries of the waking world drift away like smoke on the wind, dissolving into the vast expanse of the night. Rest now, traveler, for you have journeyed far and bravely, and in the realm of dreams you shall find solace and renewal until the sun, like a golden orb, peeks over the horizon, beckoning you back to the realm of the living. Until then, sleep tight, O traveler of time, and may your dreams be filled with the gentle whispers of peace. Let it be a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity that even in the darkest depths of conflict, the need for respect and dignity for the fallen knows no bounds. They carried with them the weight of the fallen, not just on their shoulders, but in their hearts. Each step was a testament to their courage, each breath a silent prayer that they would return with their prize to the waiting ambulance, to the hushed reverence of their comrades, and finally to the long, slow process of identification and burial. The explorer, upon their return, would be greeted by a mixture of relief and grim understanding, for the men in the trenches knew all too well the price of war, the heavy toll it exacted on both sides, the dead and the living alike. The recovery of a body, therefore, was not just a moment of triumph, but a sobering reminder of the cost of conflict. Okay, perhaps not the word one would use to describe this scene. Imagine, if you will, a network of muddy rat-infested tunnels, often without adequate ventilation or sanitation. A place where rain, when it wasn't freezing, was pouring in from above, mixing with the waste and the blood to create a thick, unholy soup. The air hung heavy with the stench of stale waste, unwashed soldiers and decay. And yet, within this fetid embrace, men sought not just shelter, but camaraderie, a semblance of home. They wrote poetry, they played cards, they joked, they sang. They did anything they could to stave off the crushing weight of despair that threatened to engulf them in the darkness. Beyond the trenches lay the barbed wire entanglements, a deadly no-man's land patrolled by snipers and riddled with the corpses of those who failed to heed its warnings. Occasionally, though, there were lulls in the gunfire, moments of respite in the storm, and it was during these uneasy truces that the intrepid explorer of no-man's land might venture forth, armed not with weapons, but with a shovel and a white flag. Their mission, a race against time in danger to recover the bodies of fallen comrades and bring them back to friendly lines for burial. The dangers were manifold, from angry snipers to the ever-present threat of artillery fire, but the need to recover the dead outweighed the risks. For the men trapped in the trenches, the retrieval of their dead was more than just a military necessity. It was an act of respect, a final gesture of humanity in the face of a dehumanizing war. It was a recognition that beyond the enemy, beyond the lines of fire, there were fathers, brothers, sons, human beings whose lives had been cut short and whose bodies deserved the dignity of a proper burial. As our intrepid explorer navigated the treacherous landscape, and so, weary traveler of time, as you drift into the embrace of slumber, and now, dear listener, if you lasted even a day in the trenches during World War I, consider yourself lucky. In the muddy, rat-infested hellholes of the Western Front, it was hard to last a single day, let alone a single year. The muffled noises of the front line do that for you. You try to remember the last time you slept properly, lying on a soft bed. With any luck, you might get to use it today. The question is, against friend or foe? There aren't many enemy soldiers around today, but snipers lurk in the trees. That means you have to keep your head down. As you mow down the German defenders, you pray your friends haven't come to take your place here. Leaving your gun behind, you follow your comrades over the top. The German trenches are only 300 meters away, The charge takes less than 5 minutes. You listen to more stories of bravery and death, and somewhere in the distance, you hear the guns going off again. You spot a vacant space in the trench and know exactly. You curse as you pull your waterproof cape around you. The mud is bad enough, but when it rains, things get really difficult. Then you feel the blood draining from your face. Let us know in the comments. You slump to the floor, reaching out for help. The last thing you remember is the taste of warm, sweet blood filling your mouth before everything goes black. At least the mud makes footprints. Rain erases all tracks, and it makes things a whole lot messier. It also gives you a fever. You start shivering, your teeth clattering together. All around you, men succumb to the fever. The doctors have no idea how to treat it. They give you aspirin and make you stay inside the trenches. It's one of the worst things to happen to you here, being stuck in the trenches, unable to move. It's like being trapped inside a coffin. It's hot, dark, dank, and the only sound you can hear is the wind and the rain. Which unlucky bastard is lying in the mud with a German bayonet sticking out of him? There's nothing to do but hope that he died quickly, painfully. You share a glance with your comrade. There's nothing to say. You nod and carry on with your day. Later, you'll help dig graves for those who didn't make it. Eventually, you get back to your own trenches. It's late, so you eat a hasty supper and wait for nightfall. The attacks on both sides slacken after sunset, but you don't dare show any light. You huddle with your mates in the darkness, swapping cigarettes and listening to a portable gramophone. Music reminds you of happier times, of girls and dancers. It's nice to remember that life once existed outside the trenches, and if you're lucky, your mate will have brought a dog with him. Dogs are rare in the trenches, but they're welcome distractions. You scratch the dog behind the ears, marveling at how an animal can live in such filthy conditions. The dog whines. Rats are scuttling around, searching for scraps to eat. The dog looks tense. It snarls and snaps, but you pat it, trying to calm it down. It doesn't work. Then you hear a shriek, a terrible, heart-wrenching scream. The dog growls, baring its teeth. Something's in the trench. You can't see it, but you can smell it. Fear. It's everywhere. You clear the parapet and drop to one knee. Raising your rifle, you aim at the nearest German, pull the trigger, and bring him down. You don't know why you fired. You had no orders to shoot prisoners. Maybe you were just scared. You stand up, wiping your hands on your pants. The others have already started tending to the wounded. It's time to get to work. After all, somebody has to guard the wounded. When the firing stops, you stick your head up and see German soldiers scrambling away. A couple of them are carrying stretchers with wounded on them. You lower your gun. Taking prisoners isn't part of your job description, and in any case, the medical services are stretched thin. With any luck, those poor devils will get to a field hospital. Some won't. The stench of cordite and decaying flesh is heavy in the air. You try not to breathe. Your sergeant shouts something about tea and biscuits, and you smile. He must have lifted his blackout curtains and seen the sun. As the whistle blows, signaling tea time, you think about your family. How long has it been since you saw them? Did your kids stop crying for you? Did your mother stop worrying? You wonder if she prays for you. If you could go home now, safe and sound, you'd give anything to see her face again. But the thought is a fleeting luxury. Soon you're back to staring at the enemy lines. You see a lone German soldier tending to a tree. Is he a sniper? Or maybe he's got orders to kill anyone who tends to that tree. Either way, you don't want to be anywhere near that tree right now. Then you hear a shout and the order comes down to open fire. You flip the switch. The first bullet leaves the barrel and you instantly regret not taking tea. Before you leave the relative safety of the trenches, you take a quick look around. The dugouts and gun emplacements are close together, and you need to watch where you put your feet. The trenches are a labyrinth of tunnels, connecting dugouts, machine gun positions, command posts, latrines, kitchens, and storage facilities. Making your way through the warren of trenches requires constant vigilance. You step carefully, listening for any telltale signs of shifting earth or falling debris. There are many dangers in the trenches, but unstable trenches are the worst. 1 minute, you're moving along, sharing jokes with your friends. The next, you're buried alive in the sludge, sucking mud and dead leaves. And with your buddies gone, you'll probably die slowly, choking on dirt, with rats gnawing on your exposed flesh. At least, you won't be hungry, wrapped in a warm blanket without fear of artillery fire ripping your body apart. It seems like a distant dream. You shake off the sleep and start to move. Your body aches as you get up. You can't remember a day without pain. You quickly change out of your soaked clothes into a spare set. Uniform shirts and trousers may be clean when issued, but after a couple of days in the trenches, they're dirty, torn, and impregnated with mud. But what's new has some advantages. You pull on your heavy knee, grateful for the extra protection against the elements and whatever other horrors lie ahead. Today, you might even have a hot meal, so you eat hungrily and savor the taste. Another perk of a fresh set of clothes. Maybe you were able to trade something with one of the other soldiers for tobacco. If so, you light up, inhale deeply, and let the smoke curl from your nostrils. Not quite as good as a fresh pack from the corner shop, but better than nothing. Life in these ditches was a test of endurance, sanity, and most of all, luck. So, let's imagine you did manage to make it through one full day in the trenches. What would that look like? You wake up early, before sunrise, when it's still dark. You don't need an alarm clock. With breakfast done, you grab your rifle and check the ammunition. It's important that you do this every morning. After 20 minutes or so, you reach your post, a machine gun position near the front line. Your job is to man the gun. For the next 2 hours, you lay down covering fire as your company charges across no man's land towards the enemy trenches. After what feels like an hour, you finally get the word to advance. The rest of the day passes in a blur. You help drag wounded soldiers to safety. You pass out water and food rations. When morning comes, you look around to see who died overnight, who's missing. In the afternoon, the rain starts. As evening falls, you realize you've been shivering for hours. Did you last a day in the trenches? His victories were not just about skill, they were also about strategy and an intimate knowledge of his aircraft. As a pilot, Richthofen wasn't merely fighting against opposing aircraft. He was engaging in a strategic dance with them. He knew his Fokkers' strengths and weaknesses intimately, and used them to his advantage. In the confined spaces above the trenches, he'd use every foot of altitude, every turn of speed to outmaneuver his opponents. Yet his true mastery lay in the offensive. When he chose to attack, he did so with the precision of a seasoned marksman. His Fokker might not have been the fastest or the most heavily armed plane, but in his hands it became a deadly instrument of war. Richthofen's tactics were a study in contrasts. While his opponents charged into fights with bravado, he lurked in the skies like a patient predator. When he attacked, it was with a calculated ferocity, a sudden, violent burst of aggression followed by a quick withdrawal. This was not reckless abandon. It was the essence of controlled violence. He struck hard and fast, inflicting maximum damage before slipping away like a striking serpent, leaving his prey stunned and vulnerable. This approach was not just effective, it was revolutionary. He was turning air combat into a game of wits, a battle of strategies as much as of skills, and he was winning overwhelmingly. By April 1918, he had taken down 80 aircraft, firmly establishing himself at the top of the scoring tables. His victory over the British airman Billy Bishop, famous in its own right, exemplified his predatory nature. Bishop, a skilled pilot and later a prominent Canadian politician, was no novice in the skies, yet he was utterly outclassed by Richter Finster. Despite being outnumbered, Richter Finster forced Bishop into a series of dives, patiently waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When Bishop made a slight miscalculation, Richter Finster pounced. A well-placed burst of fire from his Fokker's synchronized guns riddled Bishop's plane. The fight was over in a matter of seconds. Bishop's plane was a smoking wreck, slowly losing altitude. The Red Baron had struck again, and so the legend grew, each victory adding another layer to his mystique. But this story is not just about aerial prowess, it's about the context in which it happened. The Western Front during World War I was a theater of unprecedented violence. Men fought and died in numbers that were almost impossible to comprehend. Trench warfare had reduced the human experience to a grim routine of mud, blood, and attrition. Life below ground was defined by muck and grim endurance, but above, the sky was a canvas of freedom. It was here that Richthofen truly came alive, soaring through the clouds, dancing with death, and claiming victory against a backdrop of blue sky and billowing white clouds. To understand the Red Baron, we must see him against this backdrop, a fleeting figure of action and daring in a war that was rapidly draining the world of color. His story is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit yearns for the sky. It's a testament to the enduring allure of flight, the ultimate expression of freedom and exploration. And now for the history hot tip. The First World War was primarily a war of attrition. Millions of men on both sides fought in the trenches, enduring a stalemate of gunfire and artillery barrage. But above the trenches, the war was one of speed and skill, and one man more than any other embodied this aerial ballet of death. His name was Manfred von Richthofen, and his story is one of those rare ones where the legend often overshadows the reality. He was awarded the Pour la Mérite, the highest order in the German military, and his picture adorned countless postcards and newspaper clippings. A brotherhood forged in the face of death. This was as true for the German aces as it was for their British or French counterparts. They were as much at risk from their own side as from the enemy, as many a postcard will tell you. There are few professions more perilous than that of a fighter pilot in the First World War. Flying was an art form, a dance with death, conducted high above the battlefields. But for all the fame, the accolades meant little to understand the real man behind the myth. The relentless strain of constant combat, the cumulative effect of hundreds of aerial engagements, takes its toll. It took its toll on Rick. In April of 1918, during a low-level dogfight over the sun, his red triplane, the very symbol of his invincibility, was struck. The exact circumstances of his death remain a subject of historical debate, but the outcome was undeniable. The Red Baron, with 80 confirmed aerial victories, the highest of any pilot in the war, had fallen. Too many. He was the invincible Red Baron. For the Germans, it was a profound loss, the fall of a national hero. For the Allies, it was a moment of cautious relief, the removal of an almost supernatural threat from the skies. He was buried with full military honors by the Allied forces, a testament to the respect he had earned, even from his adversaries. A mythical figure whose victories seemed almost supernatural. For the pilots, though it was a test of skill and daring, and none was more daring, more skilled than the Red Baron. If you enjoyed this, do remember to like and subscribe for more. Until next time, remember, some legends are born of lead and fire, forged in the skies above the battlefields. His story is one of the First World War's most enduring legends, a reminder of a time when the skies were as unforgiving as they were beautiful. The reality of Richthofen's life was as precarious as the rickety planes that ruled the skies back then. Life as a flying ace, while glamorous in comparison to the trenches, was by no means without its dangers. Every flight was a gamble. Mechanical failures were common. Engines would seize, wings could buckle under stress, and controls could jam. The risk of being shot down was ever present, not just by enemy fighters, but by ground-based anti-aircraft fire. The Archie guns that filled the sky with puffs of black smoke. Every landing was a test of skill, often on hastily prepared airfields. To others, he was simply the best, a master of his machine and the skies. His rise was swift and undeniable. Victory after victory accumulated, each one meticulously recorded. He maintained a detached, almost bureaucratic record of his kills, each one confirmed by witnesses and marked with a small silver cup, a macabre collection that grew steadily in his mess. To the German public, he became a symbol of national pride, a chivalrous knight of the air, a stark contrast to the brutal realities faced by those on the ground. For the Allies, he was a formidable, almost mythical adversary, his red plane a harbinger of doom. But for all the fear he inspired, yet despite these dangers, Richthofen soared, his victories mounting, his legend growing. For even in the midst of war, there existed a certain code of conduct among airmen, a respect for their common calling. But even in this realm of speed and skill, the odds eventually narrowed. His death sent ripples across both sides of the front. The First World War was a conflict of attrition. So, there you have it, the history hot tip. While there are no surviving photographs of the Angel of Mons, the image captured in this painting by John Singer Sargent depicts a scene from the battle. Two wounded British soldiers are sheltering in a small boat on a canal. As they watch British and German troops fight over in the sky above, ghostly archers are silhouetted against the sun. One could argue that it was simply a matter of perspective, whether they were seen as genuine divine interventions or as figments of a war-torn imagination should not be underestimated. Finding resonance in a world that was struggling to come to terms with the unprecedented horrors of modern warfare, the Angel of Mons remained a powerful symbol of hope, courage, and the indomitable spirit of those who had fought and survived the war. And so the story of the Angel of Mons, whether a testament to the power of faith, the strength of the human spirit, or the complexities of the mind under extreme duress, continues to captivate our imagination, offering a haunting glimpse into the hearts and minds of those who lived through the First World War. They provided a brief reprieve from the harsh realities of trench life. They offered a sense of camaraderie among the troops, and they served as a potent reminder of the values and principles they were fighting for, a byproduct of the intense mental and physical strain of the war. After all, soldiers on all sides were grappling with fear, fatigue, and disillusionment. Yet it was the British who seemed to encounter these celestial apparitions more frequently. Perhaps this was because the British were fighting on foreign soil, far from the comforting familiarity of home. Or maybe it was because they were up against a formidable and seemingly invincible foe, the German war machine. Whatever the reason, the Angel of Mons became a potent symbol of British resilience, an embodiment of the nation's struggle to hold on to its ideals and humanity in the face of a mechanized and dehumanizing war. Firing arrows at the Germans. According to legend, when the Angel of Mons appeared over the embattled British troops, it was as if the very desperation of the soldiers intensified their otherworld experiences. By the time the war had reached its bitter end, the legend of the Angel of Mons had taken on a life of its own, transcending the realm of personal experiences and becoming a shared piece of the collective consciousness of those who had lived through the Great War. It instilled a sense of courage and renewed their hope in the face of certain death. But this phenomenon wasn't just about grand spectacles in the sky. It also manifested in everyday moments that offered quiet, individual acts of grace. Some soldiers reported seeing angels in the sky, not as combatants, but as silent spectators, keeping watch over the trenches and occasionally offering a comforting presence. There were even stories of angels appearing in dreams, delivering messages of hope or warning of impending danger. In an era devoid of psychological support for soldiers, such experiences took on a profound significance. The idea of a benevolent, otherworldly presence watching over them and protecting them from harm provided a much-needed emotional respite. This wasn't a one-off occurrence, but rather a recurring theme throughout the war, with similar reports surfacing not just from the trenches of France, but from various theaters of the conflict. The appearance of angels, archers, or other heavenly beings became a touchstone for soldiers, a shared experience that transcended the grim realities of their surroundings. However, the Angel of Mons was more than just a morale booster. It carried with it an inherent message of resistance and defiance against the horrors of war. The steadfastness of these angelic beings in the face of adversity symbolized the indomitable spirit of the soldiers who, despite being subjected to unimaginable hardships, refused to give in to despair or lose faith in a greater good. But why did these visions occur predominantly among British soldiers? The impact of such visions as the war dragged on. The stories of the Angel of Mons became more widespread and the descriptions more vivid. In the aftermath of the war, the stories continued to circulate among veterans groups. Did you know that during World War I, British troops on the front line claimed to have witnessed not just one but an entire army of angels? And it all started with a single story published in a London newspaper. In this episode, we will unravel the compelling narrative behind the Angel of Mons and explore how a fictional tale morphed into a mass hallucination, leaving us to ponder the boundaries of belief and the power of collective imagination. Our story begins in September 1914. What began as a fictional tale was transformed into a supposed eyewitness account. Letters started pouring in from soldiers stationed in Mons, only to be confronted by the vision of the Angel of Mons. As more and more stories surfaced, the narrative became a potent force, shaping the beliefs and morale of the troops, corroborating the story and adding their own testimonies to the mix. Soldiers spoke of seeing the angels either directly or hearing first-hand accounts from their comrades. Some described the angels as hazy, indistinct figures seen through the morning mist. Soldiers wrote about their experiences in letters home, and journalists, eager for positive wartime news, published these accounts. Remains an intriguing aspect of World War I history. It serves as a reminder of the complexities of belief and the power of narrative in shaping our understanding of the past, further disseminating the story and solidifying it in the public consciousness. While others claim to have heard their bows being strung or their ghostly voices echoing across the battlefield. Shortly after the outbreak of World War I, if you enjoyed this episode, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and share with your friends. We would love to have you back for our next episode. Until then, stay curious and keep exploring the past. Some attribute it to mass hallucination, suggesting that extreme stress and fatigue led to a shared delusion among the troops. Others point to the power of collective belief, where a single story, once set in motion, snowballed into a shared reality. Some also suggest that the anecdotal accounts could be attributed to the misinterpretation of natural phenomena, such as fog, light effects, or even distant sounds being transformed into the imagined presence of angels. People desperately sought solace in any positive news that came their way. The weight of these anecdotal accounts created a powerful and seemingly undeniable body of evidence. The story resonated deeply with those who heard it, offering a sense of purpose and divine protection in the face of great suffering. The story of the Angel of Mongs offered solace to those anxiously awaiting news from their loved ones at war. It provided a sense of security, a belief that their sons, husbands, and fathers were under divine protection, and that even in the darkest moments, there was a guiding, benevolent force watching over them. And when a story like that of the Angel of Mongs emerged, it suggested that their struggles were not in vain, that they were part of a greater divine plan, and that ultimately good would triumph over evil. It was a comforting thought that sustained many through the dark days of the war. It offered a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. It suggested that Britain's righteous cause was favored by divine providence, providing comfort to those who faced the daily horrors of the battlefield and those anxiously awaiting news of their loved ones on the front line, where, according to legend, St. George and a host of phantom archers from Agincourt had appeared in the mist to protect the British. Arthur Maheen made it abundantly clear that the story was not true. He explicitly stated that it was a fictional piece, a work of the imagination designed to capture the spirit of the times. But in the emotionally charged atmosphere of wartime Britain, this crucial detail was either lost or deliberately ignored by many. It was a gripping narrative that transported readers to the foggy battlefields of Mongs, where amidst the chaos and carnage, the villagers saw St. George and his band of spectral archers. These ghostly figures, silent and watchful, formed a protective circle around the town, fending off the attacking Germans. The war had been raging for over a month, causing significant casualties and casting a long shadow of uncertainty over the British public. Amidst this gloom, a short story titled The Bowman was published in the London Evening News, written by the Welsh author Arthur Maheen. The story recounted an extraordinary tale of courage and divine intervention. It was about an English village in Mongs. However, it is crucial to note that from the outset, as the war dragged on and the body count mounted, soon the story took on a life of its own. Chaplains, too, reported hearing men in their final moments confessing their disbelief in religion. While no physical evidence of the Angel of Mongs ever emerged, for the men in the trenches, the Angel of Mongs became a symbol of hope. Similarly, on the home front, in the absence of hard evidence, historians have put forward various explanations for this widespread belief. Furthermore, the story was not confined to the realm of the subconscious. It was actively shared, discussed, and written about. The Angel of Mongs, whether a product of collective imagination, mass hallucination, or a combination of factors. Thank you for joining me today. The Great War was not just fought in the trenches and the skies. It was also fought in the homes, in the factories and on the farms. Life on the home front was a mixture of everyday life and the impacts of the war. Life on the home front was very different for different people. Women and children might have experienced life very differently to men. Their experiences depended on their age, class, and location. The Great War was primarily a war of attrition, meaning that both sides fought with the intention of wearing the other side down. This meant that the war at the front could go on for a long time. This in turn meant that life on the home front could be very long. The British Expeditionary Force, which was made up of soldiers from Britain and other parts of the British Empire, began its retreat from Belgium in December 1913. By January 1915, they were fighting in France. That meant that people on the home front had to prepare for a long war. Rationing was introduced for food in 1915. Meat, sugar, tea, milk, eggs, butter, and bread were all rationed. Some foods like potatoes were not rationed because there was plenty of them. Sugar was the hardest ration to get hold of, so if you were given a sugar ration, you were very lucky. Families found lots of ways to use the food that they were given. They grew their own vegetables, kept chickens for eggs, and even fed the pigs on kitchen scraps. Life on the home front was not easy. As the war went on and more young men left to go and fight, fewer and fewer men were available to do the jobs that needed doing. Women and children had to step in and do those jobs. They took on traditionally male roles such as working in factories and on the land, and this helped people to challenge ideas about what men and women could do. However, these changes did not happen everywhere. In some places, old ideas about gender roles were still very strong. Working-class women were also employed as munitions workers. This was dangerous work, but it was important because guns and ammunition were needed to keep the war effort going. Working in the munitions factory was very dangerous. There were lots of accidents, and sometimes entire factories would be blown up. Not only were the women risking their lives, they were also covered in black powder from head to toe. So when they went out into the streets, they looked as though they were covered in soot. Women also took on other jobs. They drove trams and buses. They also managed farms and even took on some of the heavier farm work. Some women also served in the military, although this was very rare. Many women served as nurses. Life on the home front was not all about hardship and challenges. There were also lots of opportunities. Lots of new jobs were created in factories and on the land. These jobs gave women and children new experiences and new skills. It also gave them more independence. The war also led to the introduction of new technologies, such as the telephone and the motor car. These technologies made life easier and more convenient for people on the home front. The war also led to greater political participation by women. In 1917, women over the age of 30 were given the right to vote. This was a significant step towards full suffrage, which was achieved in 1928. The Great War was a defining moment in the history of the 20th century. It changed the world in many ways. Life on the home front was a key part of that. Although life on the home front was very different for different people, it was an important part of the war effort. Without the support of the people on the home front, the war could not have been won. Alright, before we get started, first of all, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot. Now let's talk about your feedback. You asked me to delve deeper into how the Great War transformed daily life on the home front, and that's exactly what we're going to do. The Great War was a global conflict like no other, and its impact was felt not just on the battlefields, but also on the home front. So let's dive in. Newspapers carried headlines of battles and casualty lists, creating a constant, low-level hum of anxiety. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel and tap the bell icon to never miss an update. Your engagement keeps me motivated to bring more historical tales to life. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and remember, history is more than just dates and battles. It's a story of humanity. Thanks for joining me on this journey through time. The Great War was fought on distant battlefields, but its echoes resonated on the home front. The arrival of a telegram delivered by a uniformed messenger was an event that could turn a household's stay into a blur of dread. Each message from the military authorities carried with it the potential for devastating news. The euphemisms used, KIA, or missing in action, were understood to be fraught with grim possibilities. The experience of reading casualty lists published in newspapers was a solemn ritual. These lists, read with a heavy heart, were a stark reminder of the human cost of the war. Every name represented a life disrupted, a family impacted, and a community mourning. The Great War was a conflict that not only tested the strength of nations, but also the resilience of families. Daily life during the Great War was heavily influenced by the overarching shadow of the conflict. Perhaps the most tangible impact was the introduction of rationing. Families learned to make do with less, to stretch their rations, and to be inventive with ingredients. Simple meals became a testament to children, raised on stories of scarcity, developed palates that could find sustenance in dishes that might seem unappetizing to our modern sensibilities. The experience of queuing for one's rations was a daily ritual that forged a sense of community, but also tested people's patience. Long queues outside grocery stores and markets became a common sight. People waited patiently, sometimes for hours, to get their designated amounts of food. It was a somber routine that turned the act of acquiring necessities into a test of but through it all, the spirit of camaraderie prevailed. People shared stories, news, and recipes while standing in line, turning a potentially isolating experience into a communal one. The impact of rationing extended beyond the immediate effects of scarcity. It forced individuals to reevaluate their consumption habits and develop a deep appreciation for the value of resources. The simple act of cooking a meal became infused with a sense of purpose. Each ingredient, carefully measured and judiciously used, was a small act of contribution to the national effort. It was a quiet revolution in kitchens across the nation, where resourcefulness and culinary creativity became a form of patriotic duty. Initially, food rationing began with basic staples like bread and meat, but gradually extended to encompass a wide range of consumer goods. This systematic allocation of essential items was a stark departure from the pre-war era of relative abundance and choice. Families had to contend with meager rations that slowly but surely impacted their diet and consumption patterns. Meat, once a staple, became a rare treat. The rising cost of meat led to its gradual disappearance from the family table. For many families, meat, once a central part of their diet, morphed into a luxury good, a treat reserved for special occasions or as a result of successful foraging. This change wasn't just about sustenance, it was a significant shift in culinary culture. Rationing fostered a culture of frugality. In the midst of this, news from the front, though often censored and delayed, was avidly consumed. And with that, we've come to the end of another video. The steady rhythm of your breath, the soft fabric of your bed beneath you, the faint, familiar sounds of your all these whispers of the present are a soothing balm against the echoes of the past. Feel the cold seeping into his worn boots. The brilliance of the Allied victory at Mons emerged from the darkness. Picture the sun glinting off polished metals. Imagine the pilot, wounded, his plane trailing smoke against the pristine blue. Feel the icy grip of fear as he fights to keep his plane aloft. Witness the stark reality of war, the fragility of life hanging in the balance, suspended between earth and sky. Each one a testament to courage, a silent ode to sacrifice. Picture women working in factories, their faces smudged with grime, their hands strong from labor, his eyes shining with wonder as he spots a falling star. In this world of hardship, innocence persists, a reminder of a better tomorrow. These are the women of strength, their world a tapestry of grit and determination. Let the soft hush of the present envelop you once more. The rhythmic hum of modern life, the comforting embrace of your bed, the reassuring glow of your bedside lamp. All these elements of your current reality weave together to form a protective shield, sheltering you from the echoes of war. While their world was dominated by the stark uncertainties of conflict, your world is anchored by the solid ground of peace. You are safe, secure, and enveloped by the soothing tranquility of the present moment. Let this feeling of safety and calm wash over you, allowing your thoughts to drift peacefully towards slumber. The past has shared its stories. The present offers its solace. Soon, dreams may softly beckon, carrying you to realms where even history takes a gentle bow before the quietude of your dreams. Good night. See them shouldering rifles, their eyes reflecting the fires of a nation at war. Imagine their hands, nimble and sure, working machines that once seemed unworkable, their sweat and toil keeping the wheels of industry turning. They may be far from the battlefields, but their world is no less fraught with peril. See the weary yet triumphant soldiers, their faces etched with the hardships of war, yet lighting up with pride as they march forward. This is their moment, their triumph, a brief interlude of joy amidst the somber palette of the war-torn world, mirroring the chill that crept into the hearts of millions on a night much like this. Listen to the distant rumble of artillery fire, a mournful symphony that serenades the darkness. This is their world, a world painted with the harsh strokes of conflict, where the beauty of a sunset was a luxury and the warmth of a smile a treasure. Gently, oh so gently, let your eyelids grow heavy. Imagine, if you will, the sky just beyond your window. Picture a lone pilot in his fragile plane, soaring high above the clouds, the wind whispering tales of freedom through his open cockpit. See the distant enemy, mere specks below, their guns falling silent in the face of his daring. Up here, there's only the boundless sky and the thrill of the chase. This is the freedom fighter's world, where the air itself sings of adventure and the clouds become canvases for brushstrokes of bravery, stretching endlessly like the canvas of a painter's masterpiece. Just as an artist with a delicate touch creates layers of color and emotion on that canvas, the First World War unfolded in layers of experience, each as vivid and as real as the next. In the heart of this artistic panorama, picture the soldier hunkered down in his trench, seeking respite from the relentless rain. But just as an artist uses light to illuminate his subject, and then there's the sky, limitless and free, a world away from the confines of the trenches. Here, an aerial ballet unfolds. But even in this lofty domain, shadows lurk. Below, on the home front, life goes on. And yet, even here, glimmers of hope emerge. Picture a child gazing up at the night sky, now, as the final brushstrokes of this historical panorama fade into the twilight of memory.